What's up, everybody? I am going to be showing you how to rebuild the lower unit on a MudBuddy Hyperdrive. I didn't see any videos out there online, so I figured I would do one myself. I want to thank everybody from Gator Trax. Went over to Gator Trax and the mechanic over there just broke everything down for me, helped me understand it perfectly, and gave me a lot of tips. So I wanted to share that with everybody. Hope you enjoy.
Already a little ahead of the game. This cap that's on here, this was the one that was on mine. There's no indention around this. You can see it's flat. This cap is reverse threaded. When you pull this off, there are 3 seals that should be in this, not including this O-ring, but there's 3 seals that go on the inside. Mine were pretty much like melted in there, so I ended up getting a new one. But you can actually see right here, you can see the bearing off in there. Let's see if I can get a better view. All right, you can kind of see the bearing, and then this bushing right here should be very, very smooth. Let me refocus that, there we go. Should be super smooth. If you get fishing line or anything caught up in it, you'll end up, this is my old one, pretty rough around the top. Looks like, you know, had all sorts of stuff getting stuck in it, but that's pretty much how you can tell if you need a new one. While you're already into it, I would just break everything down. This is my new one. Let me pull this out. So you can see this one does have an indention. This is the newer model, but when you purchase it, they'll give you this washer to actually flatten it out. But there are 3. Let's see if you can see it better. All right, there's the 3 seals, 1, 2, and 3. Make sure they're facing the right direction. I'll try and get as many shots of this so that it'll help you as much as possible. So you can see how those are laid off in there. See it from this angle. All right, well, basically, when you're going to put this back on, what he was telling me is you want to remove the rear cap, and when you get that bushing changed out, you're going to go ahead and start on this end. So I'm going to flip this around and start showing you this side. All right, so now I'm basically going to be taking this sprocket off. He gave me some tips on how to do it, so we're going to start looking at that. So a couple more things before we get too far along. So since I've already removed my prop, I've already taken the cap off, which is reverse threaded. I wanted to show that this bushing right here is not reverse threaded. This is standard threaded. So to get it off, spin it to the left. Now that I've gotten to this point, if I were to remove the bearings, I would want to take the stuff out of that end and hit the shaft this way. The shaft's not going to go that way. It's tapered in the opposite direction. So when you come this way, you can get the bearings out. The bearings will actually come out with the shaft. On this end, the bearings that are in here, you actually, if you can't pull it out from this way, you'd have to actually cut them out. So at least wanted to throw that out there. I'm not going to be changing the bearings today, but we'll at least get to where we can see them. So I've braced off this end. You can use any type of wrench, anything, just to make sure that it doesn't move. These Allen hole screws here are, let's see, a 7/32 is actually what fits the best. I also tried a 5.5 millimeter and go standard instead of metric. It's a much better fit. So I'm going to get to taking these 2 out, and you put a bolt in here and start to press after you pull this set pin out, and then it's going to push this away and push the sprocket towards the rear. All right, I will update in a minute. Okay, so taking off the front, this is kind of your next step. So I've already broken it loose and done everything, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna take one of these Allen screws that you actually had here and here. You're going to remove both of them. You're gonna take another one and you're gonna start screwing it in to your push hole over here. This is basically going to separate the sprocket and this locking mechanism right here. So what I did, I don't have a very big Allen wrench, so I used this, and then I used a big old piece of black iron pipe and conduit, anything that you can get the leverage on it. Just very, very slowly twist that until this locking mechanism starts to push away from the sprocket. So when you start screwing it, you can actually see how this is coming out. The center is moving outwards, and the sprocket is moving towards the rear. So you're gonna get to a certain point. I have this screwdriver in here to put it back on so that it spreads it enough to where you can get it over this lock right here. But basically all you're gonna do is once you break them loose, slowly pull both of them out, and there you go. So these are two different pieces. You can see that and how it works. When you go to put it back on, this lock is part of the shaft. So you're going to hit a screwdriver into this. From what I could tell, you don't want to put it too hard because you don't want to break it, but you want to get the head of that flathead screwdriver down in there enough to where it can fit around the lock. And then once you get it in place, you could probably pull the screwdriver out. All right, on to the next part. All right, so now that we've gotten sprocket out of the way, you can see there's tons of grease, but basically there's going to be this seal right here, and then the bearing is going to be just on the other side of it. The tip that I was taught is that to get this out, if you're not going to remove the bearings, then that seal is going to be kind of a pain to get out. So you're going to have to sit there and pry at it. Or what you do is you drill a hole on one side, drill a hole in the other, and take some wood screws and just screw them into the rubber, and then grab a pair of pliers on both sides and pull that seal out. That should make it go a lot faster. And then once you complete this, what we're going to do, once we get that other seal out, we're going to come to this end and we're actually going to put our cap on. We may need to knock the shaft a little bit in that direction towards the front. So what we'll do is we'll tap this, make sure that that cap's on good, and we'll come back to this side and we'll tap it back. I'm not going to use anything bad. I've got a dead blow hammer, any type of rubber hammer or mallet will work fine and not damage the metal. All right, that's the next step. All right, time to clean this thing up. I blew out this grease seal, so that's why I'm only replacing the seals and not the bearings. Bearings are actually perfectly fine. So, all right. So there can be so much grease in the way. I want to just offer one more step. There's a snap ring in here. You have to take that out before trying to get that grease seal out, or you are not going to be successful and you might mess something up. But actually it'll probably just take you a million times longer to get that grease seal out because it won't come. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my pair of snap ring pliers and get that thing out of the way. Close and personal so that you don't miss this. All right, so you can see right there, there's your two holes for the snap ring that's in there. So I don't have a pair of snap ring pliers. I'm gonna use a pair of needle nose. Worked perfectly fine, worked the exact same way. And let's get it. All right, finally got the snap ring out. Pain in the butt. Not really sure why that took so damn long, but it'd be a whole lot easier with a set of snap ring pliers. It's unfortunately, the only ones that I've got open outward. So next step, we're gonna drill on that rubber seal. Try to get that. Try to get some of these wood screws that I've got threaded in there, and then we're gonna grab 2 pairs of pliers and pull hard. It should come flying right out. So, just for an example, we're going to go ahead and just pull this out. Take a look at what we're looking at. All right, so that's the way it's facing right now. So there is a cavity back here for the grease. It's facing towards the propeller. So we're going to drill through this. All right, so this rubber piece is a little thicker than I thought. So I am going to use the drill to actually get these in.
I'll be able to put them in by hand, so that is undrilled. All right, now that I've got those in, give it a whirl.
Yeah! And there she is. And there's the bearing. All right. The screws work. Deck screws, 3-inch, 2-inch, doesn't matter. Some type of wood screw. Drill a hole through the seal and pull it right on out. So just cleaned it up a little bit. We got that seal out of there. You can see the bearing back in there. This is going to go on soon, but the rear cap going on next. Reason being is that what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to take this propeller shaft and we're going to have to knock it a little bit towards the front of the motor so we can get this seated all the way down. And then what we'll do is we'll come back here and pop it back once we get it seated, and then we'll start reinstalling everything else.
A little bit of marine grease, really doesn't matter. My buddy who ran the motor before me, all he used was black molly. So, you can use just about anything as long as you keep it lubed. I'll go ahead and take some of this. I'm just gonna pack it on in there. Get nice and greased up. Make it easy to go in. Okay. Does not want me to go. Doesn't want me to make it up to the threads. I'm gonna try hitting this thing a little bit more.
Alright. Finally starting to thread in. This is probably extremely boring. So let's bring you closer. Alright. So, if you look at it right here, what I was having to do is knock this. I just had to push really hard. That's why I was having to knock it that way, because threads didn't want to actually make it to this housing. So, once I knocked the shaft a little bit, you can see going on a lot easier. I'll sit here and spin this and tighten it all the way up, and then we'll knock that propeller shaft back after we get this tightened down. We got to make sure that this gap is completely tightened up. So I'm gonna button that up just so you don't miss out on anything. I got that tightened down. Now I'm using a big pipe wrench to tighten that cap back on. Just gonna hit it one time with some force. Oh, look at that, it did it, it's perfect. Alright, well, I had tightened it up enough. I don't want to scuff it up too bad, but it looks good. Actually see that it's sealed perfectly. And now, it's time to set this. I'm going to hit on this a little bit, try and get that shaft to move back a little bit again. And then the other part that I am forgetting, do not forget, if you've got one like mine, got to make sure that washer's in place. It really just needs to be in place when you put the prop back on, but I'm going to go ahead and put that on now. Hopefully it doesn't fall off, and we get to rebuild. And we're back. So I'll go ahead and knock on this a little bit. Alright, got that. Here's our front seal. Bearing looks good. Everything's turning fine. So we are going to go ahead and grease this up on that side. Probably just help us get it in there. No reason not to. Alright, I'm going to take this. It appears we've hit a problem. Alright. So what I just realized is that we need to take a punch. We need to pop that pin out. I was not sure if it needed it, but it is clear now. That thing's got to come out. So just gonna grab a nice big flat punch. I'm just gonna tap on it a little bit just to get it out. Starting to think we're just gonna leave that puppy on there. Because that one don't want to come off. Which I'm not necessarily thrilled about, but whatever. Alright. Well, I will have an extra bushing in case I ever do need to change everything. So let's go ahead and just get this puppy pressed back into place. Work. Yeah. I got a little piece of PVC fitting from an old project. This seems to work just lovely. good to me. I think the test now is to get that snap ring back in. All right, I kind of wanted to just give everybody a little bit of a heads up. So you can see that my seal is up against the snap ring. So when I had initially popped it on, I kind of hit it all the way until it hit the bearing. And when I went to put the snap ring in, there was about a 1/4 inch gap in between. So your relief valve's over here, pulled it out, started pumping grease into it. When it started coming out of the relief valve, put the screw back in, and I started putting a few pumps at a time, and then I would look at the seal. A few pumps at a time, look at the seal. And when the pressure built up, the seal slowly came back, went up against the snap ring, and then as soon as it did, I went ahead and undid the bleeder valve, let all the pressure out, and yeah, now she's good to go. So just wanted to tell y'all how to get that seal up against the snap ring. I'm gonna start reassembling. All right, I'm gonna walk through at least how I'm going to put all this back together. I can't guarantee it's gonna be 100% correct, but should be good enough. Hey! Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. I'm just cleaning all these parts up. I actually dropped the entire unit when I was taking it off the motor, and I had some stuff, I had put some stuff down to hopefully protect it against that, and when it hit, it ended up landing right here on this sprocket. So it kind of dinged it up a little bit. I was just sanding them down just a hair. Not really that worried about it. All right. So here's your 3. Here's the center lock. There we go. All right. Tighten these babies back up. I know I took them off with the pipe wrench, but with the pipe as leverage. I don't necessarily want to put them back on, so I like the idea of using a smaller Allen wrench. It's very difficult for you to overdo it. So I would recommend doing the same thing. I'm just gonna keep tightening until we feel comfortable. All right, I think we're done. That is how you do it. I'm just gonna take a wire wheel, get all this old silicone, get all that cleaned up real good, and I'm gonna put it back on and be good to go. Thanks for watching.